Okay. So you want to just start off with the Bulls game?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So 3-1 on the week. Just good to mention. We did win 2 against Indiana. I guess
Yeah.
before we go into the Bulls, I feel like they're always tough, and especially when it's those you play the same team like 2 out of 3 nights or back to back. I was really thinking best case was a split, so that was
I
some
mean,
good.
it did look like it with the Indiana game. The first one, it looked like we were gonna really lose that one. We really had to come from behind and win that, which was nice. Uh, yeah, that was a team. I mean, we went 3-1 on the week, but it was a very ugly feeling 3-1. Like the first one against Indiana did not feel very good. Second one, we kind of handled business. Did what we needed to do. But the Sixers loss was just absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, that was tough, and it felt like even though it's only a 2-game win streak, it did feel like there was a little momentum, and
Yeah.
that was just ugly.
I mean, we talked about it too because I mean, we had that terrible schedule in December. It has gotten easier since we started January, and we have done a pretty good job taking advantage of it. We have New Orleans and Charlotte coming up. Um, we
Charlotte's
obviously
been playing pretty well.
Charlotte's been playing well. New Orleans though, they're not very good
They're not.
for the most part. So and they're still, of course, without Zion, which is going to be nice. But Chicago, that's a win that looks a lot better on paper than it actually looked last night.
Right.
Um,
No Levine or Alonzo.
no, but what's it? I cannot pronounce. I do not have any idea how to pronounce his name. Ao de dos some. I'll try and look up a
The
pronunciation
Son.
guide.
The
The
Son.
Sam, yeah, he's a guy from Illinois, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
21 and
he
10 for him.
Yeah, I mean, he balled out. I think he was what? He was a second round pick, I'm pretty sure. I
Dang,
think
10
he may
assists.
Yeah, no, he was balling. He's one that I heard a lot of NBA scouts talking about how he might just be like, yeah, he's pick 38. When did the Celtics pick? 45?
Yeah, so we
Yeah, so
missed him.
he was taken right before we had to pick. But yeah, I remember like listening or not listening, but like reading a lot of like Twitter scouts, like not the big name guys, but they're talking a lot about how they really liked him. They liked as a prospect, and they thought he had a really good chance to be a steal. He's a little bit older. He's already 21, but I mean,
That's
this was I think this was easily the best game of his career. So,
yeah, 10
um,
assists for a shooting guard's pretty impressive.
no,
He
I
did
know,
play
yeah,
40 minutes though.
yeah. I mean, it was kind of a weird situation with Lonzo Ball being out, and typically DeRozan is like their secondary playmaker as well. Levine's obviously a pretty decent passer for a wing, but or DeRozan was there, but Levine being out, we had DeRozan as kind of their secondary playmaker, so Ao had to step up. Um, yeah, I was really impressed with him though. He looked really good. Uh, for the most part. I really like what I really liked about this game is I think you talked about 2 weeks ago. I mentioned again last week, but Rob's been balling out recently. Like he's had a very good stretch of games, and now it's an pretty extended period of time. He had 4 free throws that were very clutch on the stretch.
Yeah,
Um,
14, 13, and 6 with 2 blocks
yeah,
against Chicago.
I mean that was huge too, and that's the thing that I really like with Rob is we don't utilize him. I feel like enough offensively. I think we're getting more and more into it, especially with Smart being out. Like I think as much as I like Marcus, I don't think Marcus is the problem. I just think it was overall the way the offense has been constructed and how it's been a lot of isolation ball. I think they've done a lot of stuff with Rob. Whether or not it was pick and rolls last night or running offense through him through the high posts, being able to get him involved was huge because you're losing a guy like Marcus Smart who typically has the ball in his hand a lot. And Rob's a guy who, while being really, really effective most of the time, he doesn't usually have the ball for very long. So it's hard for him to really show off his playmaking or his ability to be super effective around the rim just because a lot of times it's kind of like a last minute, like a last second option, like not your primary option to get him the ball. But
Right, I think they're still adjusting to just having him be a more normal part of the offensive flow. And all in all, like that's one of our brightest spots this year is that he is starting to adjust, and as is the team. So I think as he just keeps getting more comfortable, we should just keep seeing him dominate.
Yeah. And they were able to hammer it too. Like this was another matchup that was very favorable for him because Vucevic, like obviously he's more of a old school, like back to the basket, like slow moving, um, bigger physical center. They were able to run pick and rolls with he and whoever it was in this case, like Jalen Schroeder or Tatum, and was really able to get Vooch moving. It was very tough to defend that, whether or not it was one of the wing players doing the damage or if it was Rob doing the damage. So that was really like cool to see. Um, we
Yep,
also
get some
saw,
players out of their comfort zone defensively.
yeah, and it's good that we have guys. I mean, it sucks that I'm not Rob, that Al really hasn't been the shooting threat because it'd be really cool if we were able to kind of like use those guys more of a platoon based on the type of matchup we're seeing at center. But Al's been pretty much atrocious shooting the ball, so we really can't take advantage of him being a stretch big this year. But we also saw last night Richardson being the closing lineup instead of Al, which was something different to see. And I think I talked about it last week with Emery that I would like to see Grant in there. Grant really didn't look particularly good last night, so I can see why they went with Richardson. But with the way Richardson's shooting, just like the added spacing's huge, and the way that the Bulls typically play. The Bulls are a much smaller team usually. I mean, DeRozan's played the four a lot this year, so it didn't really surprise me too much to see us go the smaller lineup with Richardson in there instead of Al. But just something that's interesting to see. We'll see if we see that more going forward, especially against teams that like to go small, similar to the Bulls.
Yeah, Richardson, I mean, it feels like a lot of the C's guys are a little hit or miss, but Richardson's one of those high volume offensive guys where when he comes in and sparks the offense, it looks great. And obviously on the reverse end, when he's cold, it can feel like he's forcing, but with Smart out and the need for offense, I liked him out there as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting nervous because he's shooting so well above his career average this year. I think he's on a career like 34% 3-point shooter, and he's shooting like 40% on the year. So that's something that I feel
Richardson
like is,
is?
yeah, Richardson's shooting 40%
Wow.
this season from deep. So that's something that I feel like is going to level out as the year goes on. You hope though that the rest of the team, I was talked about I think last week that like pretty much everyone's down aside from Grant and Richardson on their 3-point percentages. So you hope that while Richardson maybe does level out a little bit, you hope the rest of the guys level out in the other direction.
Like you just had mentioned, Al, that's one of those guys where I think it's just a little kink, and there's no reason we can't like be optimistic for his shooting to get back to where he's normally at.
Yeah, we don't need a kink shame Al, but um no, I mean I kind of talked about Rob, and it's something to note because I was gonna bring him up to this week and I brought him up last week and you brought him up the week before. So I thought I'd look back and just see how he's been. It is only over the last 2 weeks. So the start of the new year, he's averaging 10 points, 10.5 rebounds, 2 assists, with 3 blocks a game, shooting 74% from the field and 91.7% from the line.
Wow. The
So
free
he's just been
throws
like,
too.
yeah, just crazy efficient. I think I predicted the beginning of this year that he was going to average 10, 10, and 2, or I think I maybe said 3 with like 3 blocks a game. So right around what I expected of him. It took him a little bit to round into shape, but now I think he's finally feeling comfortable. And I think he's really starting to become like, I think he's established now as like part of the core of this team, which is very cool to see.
I got him in my fantasy basketball league where you keep your players. I'm blanking on the name.
Just it's called Keeper League or
Keeper
Dynasty
League,
League.
Dynasty, but
Sorry, Dynasty League. Yeah.
it was such like a main heavy draft that I had to take him pretty high, I think, but he's still been killing it for me
Yeah.
because
He's
blocks
one.
are too.
Yeah. I mean, and he's always going to be a big shot blocker. Like, I think he's one of the most talented shot blockers in the league. The only thing with him is just like injury concerns. And he's done a very good job of staying healthy this year. And we've seen that with other guys. Like Embiid, like, it's crazy to think of Embiid like now because he seems to, I mean, he's pretty good at staying healthy. Like, it's not a huge concern anymore, but he was one of those guys that was just constantly injured. I think he played. I think I saw a crazy stat the other day when they were referring to Zion. Like I think he only played like 80 games or something like that in his first like 3 seasons because he sat out his whole first season. He probably should have won Rookie of the Year second year, but only played like 30 something games. And then he was like on and off, and they like really were, I think, careful with him that following season. So he's there's hope that maybe he's just figured out like how to stay healthy. So we'll hope that Rob just once again continues to stay healthy because I really don't want to see Rob getting hurt. But
Yeah, I just saw he's third in the league in blocks per game, just behind Gobert and Miles Turner.
yeah, I mean those are like 3 of the best shot blockers in the league, and if I looked at the numbers, I'm gonna guess that in as far as minutes played, I feel like Rob would probably be third out of those 3.
Yeah, he also has played less games. I mean, it's the same, but I'm just saying volume wise.
Yeah.
So like they've done.
Yeah. He's one of those that I think his shot blocking just been incredible. I think if I'm not sure, I heard a stat the other day that he has more blocks this season than he does fouls, which is like a crazy stat to like put out there, especially like where he's come from. I think when we were previewing the season, we talked about he and Grant. Like he and Grant were both over like per 36 minutes, were both over like 5 fouls a game. So basically, they were fouling. Like if they were to play a full game as a starter, they're essentially fouling out every time. And
right,
they've both done such a good job this year of limiting their fouls. And it's made them just so much more useful as players.
Yep. So we've got New Orleans, and then who did you say? Charlotte after that.
Yeah.
Did you see the Did you see the LaMelo sequence where he like stopped on a dime for the 3, got the steal, and did the between the legs oop to Bridges?
No, but like that's the thing that sucks about Charlotte is like even when we're watching them, I'm like it's gonna be hard for me not to like just think about how cool Charlotte. Like they're just such a fun
I
team to
know they
watch. Like I
might be
think
the
they're
coolest team in the league this year.
yeah, like Miles Bridges, like he just like dunks everything. He's having a crazy breakout year. Lamella Balls, like of course, a lot of fun. We love Terry. I think Terry's like one of the most beloved guys that has left Boston the past few years. I think everyone just universally was like, yeah, he kind of got screwed. Like he pretty much was the point guard and was probably like the second or third best player on that team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals and then got kind of shafted as far as minutes and shots the following season. And we kind of understood where he was coming from when he wanted out the following year, and he's obviously thrived, especially in like his role. Like it was basically best case scenario between him and LaMelo, where he can guard the other point guards because he's a little bit smaller. He doesn't have to handle as much of the playmaking, and he's able to have a guy that can create for him and get him easy looks. So I think that was like a really good situation for him to fall into. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to watch that game. Hopefully the Celtics come out on top. But I think either way, we'll get to enjoy the show that is the Charlotte Hornets.
Do we have any copyright liabilities? Should I try sharing my screen and pulling that up real quick?
I don't anyone will flag us
Yeah,
anything.
that's what I
Maybe
was
YouTube, but I mean even then, like I think we'll probably be good.
Yeah. All right, let me try this real quick. Bear with me.
What is going on?
Okay, you're not sharing your screen. You know that, right? Okay. Yeah, and as far as the Philly, we can talk about. I mean, the Philly game real quick was just brutal. I think there's one point as a 28-4 run or 20-2 run, something crazy like that. There we go.
That's what they came to see. Stopping on the dime and leaving 9 cents. LaMelo, the rip away, clean.
Yeah, where that was pretty sweet. That's crazy just to attempt that like mid game.
I don't know how well that worked, but
yeah, it looked a little bit. Maybe it'll come out better when like the actual recording comes out. But what was the score when that happened? I guess I didn't catch that.
Yeah, I just closed it.
Yeah, you just closed it.
But actually, I'm honestly think they might have been down 2, and that tied the game.
Yeah, like that's just like the crazy stuff that like you would hate. Like I'd hate to watch I think Marcus Smart did that not too long ago. Just tried to like whip a behind the back pass in like a close game to like Jalen in the corner, just like went out of bounds. And just like that's just, I was very upset. But like it's fun to watch the other teams. Like I'm sure there's probably times that they do that and it doesn't work out. But it's nice to be able to admire it from afar.
You want to talk about the Pats at all?
Yeah, we can do that. Like we said, Pelicans tomorrow on the 17th. When you're listening to this, probably will be listen to this on the 17th, so it'll be that night. And if they right now they've won 4 out of their last 5, so an opportunity to extend this like hot streak, not exactly a winning streak, but to 5 out of 6 games, which would be nice to see. Hopefully puts the Celtics back atop 500.
Yeah, get up over 500. Brady's up 17-0 on the Eagles.
Yeah.
Update.
I'm watching that. We had the Bengals. The Bengals were able to win their first playoff game since 1991.
Yeah, that was sweet. Obviously they didn't end up having the chance, but I was curious to see if the Raiders would have gone for 2 had they scored. Just being on the road, and I mean, I thought they were a pretty big underdog, so I was just curious to see if they'd try it.
I always feel like when you're the worst team and you have the momentum on your side, I do think that, or when the momentum maybe is not on your side, like it hadn't been, I think if you're the lesser team, I would probably want to go for it in that situation.
Yeah,
where
that was what I was thinking too.
Because the longer the game goes on, I feel like the more likely it is the best team comes out on top. But
yeah, that's pretty much my stance as well.
Yeah, but so this Philly game doesn't look like it's gonna be anywhere close. It looks like the Eagles can't do anything offensively.
Yeah, so brutal game for the Pats.
If you're a Pats fan.
Yeah.
That was pretty sweet. I think the what was it? They didn't have, I think it was the first time in NFL history that a playoff game, or the first time in like a very long time, that a team has played a playoff game and hasn't kicked a field goal, punted, or turned the ball over. And that's what the Bills did last night. I think Josh Allen was like 21 for 25, 308 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks.
They just diced them up, and the Pats have relied on their D all season.
Yeah, I think they finally, third time around, I think the Bills finally figured out the Pat. I mean, the first game was just such a shit show. Like there was no way.
The winter, windy, right?
Yeah, that was when it was literally like 45-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, the
ball was
2 for 3 or something.
Yeah, Mac Jones had made completed or attempted 3 passes. What was really surprising is how well the Bills ran the ball, because the Bills like have not been a good running team all year, and I think they had like 180 yards rushing as a team against the Pats, and like that's just very surprising. Like they've had games where like they haven't ran the ball like more than a few times. Like they don't really trust their running backs very much, so it's very surprising for them to be able to have that much success against the Patriots run defense. But
it's crazy that Singletary got in the end zone twice. I know most of fantasy's over, but like I had him for 2 or 3 years and he was just miserable every season.
I know. And Dawson Knox caught the 2 touchdown passes. Like not like Stephon Diggs had a pretty quiet game in comparison. I think he still had like 60 yards, but the ball's being spread around.
Dawson Knox and Devin Singletary
DFS owner,
2 touchdowns or more would have paid.
That'd been pretty crazy. That sounds like it's steep odds, and no one would ever be willing to do that. But no, I mean we have the NFL games. What is it? Cowboys, Niners, or the 4:25 game? Do you have any bold predictions for that one?
Yeah, it's Dallas -3. I think it's going to be a good game, honestly. I want the Niners.
Oh, are you watching this right now?
I'm not.
Oh, dude. I can't think of who was it. Yeah, Goddard just had an incredible catch and run.
But anyway, I'm going Niners, but I don't know if that's what I think will happen.
I think Niners. I think Debo's going to have an absolute crazy game and carry them to a playoff victory.
One game I'm really excited for is the Steelers-Chiefs. It's a 12.5 spread. Maybe, I mean, I'm either going to be right or wrong, obviously, but I feel like the Pit is going to make it an ugly, close game. I'm all over Pitt with 12.5 points.
Yeah, I don't know. Is anyone out for the? I don't think anyone's out for the Chiefs, are they?
I don't think so, no.
So they have all their weapons. I don't know. I know the Steelers have a pretty good defense, but I just don't think that the Pittsburgh offense and Big Ben's gonna be like able to really do a whole lot of Like, I don't know.
I mean, I agree. They'll have
I
to
guess if
make
you're
it ugly.
like, I don't think it's gonna be a close game, but yeah, if you're better, like I can see why that 12 and what did you say, like 12.5 point line. I can see why that might be enticing for the Steelers
It's
because
actually
they're a pretty good
decent
defensive
amount.
team. Like they can like grind out a game, and it still might
Exactly.
not feel like a close game, but they could very easily cover.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm excited for both those games. So I really not a Cowboys fan for whatever reason. I've always kind of disliked the Cowboys fans. So go
Yeah,
Niners.
they're very yeah. I just like that. I love Debo. Like Debo helped
But
me all
shout
year
out
during
Dyer.
fantasy.
He's going for them boys today.
Yeah, I mean, Cowboy fans are like them and the Raiders. It's one of those things that's funny where I feel like you see a lot of fans up here in Maine just because like a lot of people jumped on their bandwagon when the Patriots were bad in the '90s and those teams were good. So like I think those are the two fan bases where you see a large portion of all those that are kind of like doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I think it was just the success in the early '90s. You have a lot of Cowboys, a lot of Raiders fans.
I got a real reminder last night of how nationally hated the Pats are just in a random bar in North Carolina, and 99% was cheering for Bills.
Yeah.
Hearing
I mean,
Pats every 5 seconds. I'm just like, come on, Brady's gone. Like, we got a rookie now.
I know. And the worst part about it is that I feel like I'm going to see way too many Patriots fans taking a moral victory in this Tampa Bay win. Because it seems like they've all kind of like backed themselves in. They're like also Tom Brady fans, and they're also happy when Tom Brady wins.
You're describing me to a T.
I know, like that's what happens. Like everyone does that, and I think it's very funny that that's the case. You have a couple of years where you're not the cream of the crop anymore, and then you see a bunch of people that are happy with the Tampa Bay Bucks winning. But
I mean, Brady's his own thing, though. Just
yeah,
wanting him to get more rings, just for
I think.
saying.
I also saw a crazy Brady stat that he has as many touchdowns since turning 40 as Troy Aikman did in his entire career, which is just like wild.
It's like Curry was shooting, where it's like getting to the point that he's just gonna keep breaking different weird records.
Yeah, I feel like he's gonna have to have like all the the career records. I think. I mean, I don't know. I feel like some guys like Stafford, if he plays for a while, I think he could like have a bunch of passing yard records.
Yeah, he's
Even
a
Matt
high
Ryan's
volume.
like surprisingly high up there, but I don't know how many years he's got left of like starting quarterback play. But yeah, these playoff games should be good.
Yep.
Yeah, those are my takes. The playoff games. It'd be nice to see a good game. I mean, the Bengals Raiders game wasn't bad, but the Bills game last night wasn't very pretty. This game is looking really ugly too. So hopefully we get some better games tonight. So some last things before we can kind of wrap up today. We are closing in on the trade deadline. I would like to do a real trade deadline episode coming up soon. But some names that I've heard rumored, listening to the Anything is Potable Celtics podcast, they mentioned Marcus Morris and Jeff Green as possible trade targets. So, obviously,
some old Celtics.
Yeah, both old Celtics. Some familiar.
I loved both of them when they were in green.
I never liked Jeff Green, but
I guess I liked Jeff Green before he like didn't become a huge prospect like I wanted him to. I remember 1 year thinking like he was going to be an MVP candidate.
Well, he was 2 picks after KD. Like he was a 4th overall pick in that same draft. So we can talk about Marcus Morris first, though. Just something interesting with his contract. I believe it fits into the 4-year TPE because I believe that's $17 million and he's just under it for this year. So we'd have 2 years after the season. So that's one looking long term if we think that would be a good player to play beside the Jays. I like it for the shooting aspect of what Marcus Morris brings, shooting, scoring, defense, like toughness. What I don't like is Marcus Morris. One of the whole reasons why it didn't work out the first time around is the ball seemed to really stick to his hand. He was getting a lot, looking
Mhm.
for his own shot a lot. Maybe he'll take a lesser role now as he's starting to age a little bit, and the Jays have kind of emerged. But that does make me nervous, and that the contract though is enticing just for the fact that not that I want to pay him $16 million the next 2 years, but those are contracts like we saw with Josh Richardson that are those mid like teens contracts are really easy to flip for better assets.
Right.
Especially teams that are selling once you have like only 1 or 2 years left.
Wasn't there
that
some drama? Sorry. Wasn't there some drama with like Marcus Morris and the Knicks last offseason? Like, didn't he like commit? And
no
then,
Spurs. He
oh,
signed with the Spurs and then backed out, then signed with the Knicks, then got traded.
right. I don't know what.
So
made me
that's what
think
that
about
was.
that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah. I completely forgot about that till you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Jeff Green is much more lot lower salary. He's been playing fairly well for the Nuggets. He's only making $4.5 million this year. He's not nearly the shooter that Marcus Morris is. He's shooting 34% of the season. He would provide, once again, kind of the defensive versatility. He's a guy that can play the 4 or the 5. Does provide a little bit of shooting. Like we said, like 34% is not great, but it's not terrible.
Mm-hmm.
We've mentioned that Dennis Schroeder is a guy that makes sense going to Denver because they're really lacking in shot creation. So getting a guy like Schroeder for Jeff Green, especially when they're making about the same amount, makes a lot of sense for both sides. I do think he fits fairly well with them, except we do start getting a little big heavy. But
Yeah,
I
that's
don't think.
interesting. I need to digest that a little. I hadn't heard that rumor.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Green, it makes sense. I don't mind it. I'm just like trying to think. I don't think it affects anything. But it's like, what does he do that's so much different than like what
What
Grant
we
and
have.
Al are already
Yeah.
doing? Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I'd rather get like a bigger center because like we're still gonna need we're still not gonna want to put Jeff Green out there to guard Joel Embiid. Like we see Ennis, like that's really Ennis's only real value.
I feel like Dennis could get a first round pick from a contender.
I don't know. Like just
Maybe
not that many teams need him. Like I said, like it's like Denver, a few others. They like are really looking for a guy like him, but not like a whole lot of looking for a kind of shot first point guard that can't really shoot the 3 ball or play a lot of defense. Like not a lot of playoff teams really need that. It's really just like seems like Denver's the only one that's really looking to add a guy like that. But
yeah, you might be right.
no, we can stick on those. We can kind of think about at least those two guys. Oh, and the Bull trade got voided, so maybe Bull's a possibility as well.
Now that
I don't know
I was like,
yeah, that one got traded because he failed his physical.
nice.
Once again, I don't know what Bull is. Pretty concerned if he fails his physical though. Like I don't think those are that difficult. So I don't know
many times of that. So
I don't know what's wrong with him, but that's kind of concerning if you're a huge Bull fan.
Yep. All right. Well, I was gonna tell you. So my buddy from down here, Matt Graham, is down to hop on next week's episode.
Oh, where is he a Celtics fan or just a overall NBA fan?
He's a pretty big Celtics fan. So he grew up down here, but I can't remember his tie to Boston. It's either like family lives there, he lived there growing up, or something. But yeah, he's a big Celtics fan. So I'll tell him we're doing like a trade episode.
Yeah, we can do that. I don't know exactly when the trade deadline is. We gotta get that aligned with Emery, but yeah, either way, we can set that one up. We can do a big trade episode. Everyone can bring a trade or two to the table, and we can just talk about it. I think that would be a fun conversation to have.
Sweet.
Okay. Until next time.
Until next time.
Peace.